Now we're going to go after a different type, the Sufi Rumi, who lived in the 1100s. And you might remember the Sufis were the most mystical of the one area of Islam. And in particular, they developed dances. So they were called the Whirling Dervishes, as they would get into ecstasy and union with the creator. So let's take a look at what Rumi has to say, and then we'll get into his poetry. And there aren't really any, but we have these sketches of Rumi, but no one really knows what he looks like. So Rumi was born in 1207 and died in 1273. And so this is the 12th century, I guess. No, the 13th century. And as such, his works are written mostly in Persian. So in that sense, they're not really that well known, but occasionally he used Turkish, Arabic, and Greek in his verse. And so it's come down to us in bits and pieces. The key thing about his influence was it transcends Islam. It transcends any national borders and ethnic divisions. His views were far beyond Iran, the Kurds, the Parthians, the Tajiks, the Turks, the Greeks, all the Central Asian Muslim countries. Uh, he was universal, and that's why we find him today being so courant, what he has to say. He's called Rumi in English, but his full name is spelled out here. It's incomprehensible to me, but calling him Rumi is good enough. The Arabic name means glory of the faith, and the base name that comes out of it is Rumi, meaning he's from Balak and he's from Rum or Roman, what European history now calls the Byzantine Anatolia, which is a piece of Turkey. So the thing about Rumi is the peninsula, which had belonged to the Byzantine or the Eastern Roman Empire, had only recently been conquered by the Muslims. And when it came to being controlled by the Turkish Muslim rulers, it was still known to Arabs, Persians, and Turks as a geographical area of Rum. And as such, there are a number of historical personages there known to Rumi that give him this strong tie to what used to be the Roman Empire. But he was also known as the mullah of Rumi, of Rum. So if we could pronounce this, he's known as Mevlana in Turkey, but Rumi to us. And the term here really means our master, or my master is who Rumi is. So he was born to these Persian parents in what today would be called Afghanistan, but it was really quite close to, again, the Byzantine end of the Roman Empire. And his father was a preacher and a jurist and worked there. And then around age 5, the family moved to Samarkand, which, if you know anything, is one of the great cities on the Silk Road between Europe and Asia. Uh, the Romans, for example, got silk from China and dyed it with this royal imperial purple that were the Roman togas as a sign of power. The greater Bach at the time was a major center of Persian culture, and Sufism, which is the most mystical of Islam, had been developing there for centuries and had a huge influence upon Rumi, besides his father, who again was a preacher, and there were Persian poets there as well. So Rumi expressed his appreciation to Attar, one poet, was the spirit, and Sinai, who was his eyes, and in the time thereafter, we came in their train, and so that's what got him into poetry. And Attar had traversed the 7 cities of love, and we're still at the turn of one street. So he feels he owes a great deal to these two poets. So at the time, it was a major center of Persian culture. Sufism had developed there, and uh, so it goes. The education, he became the head of a religious school, his father, and when he died, Rumi, at age 25, inherited this position as the head of the school. And the students there continue to train Rumi in the Sharia as well as the Tariqa, and especially that of Rumi's father. And for years, he practiced Sufism as a disciple of someone who later died in 1240. So Rumi's public life then began only in 1240, and he became a jurist. He issued fatwas, and he gave sermons in the mosques and served as a teacher and preacher. And so during this period, he also traveled to Damascus, and looks like he spent 4 years in Damascus, and he had a meeting with a dervish in 1244 that completely changed his life. From an accomplished teacher and jurist, Rumi was transformed into someone completely ascetic, an incredible life-changing experience. So the Shams had traveled through the Middle East, searching and praying for someone who can endure my company. And a voice said to him, "What will you give in return?" And Shams replied, "My head." And the voice said, "The one you seek is in Konya." So on this night in December of 1248, Rumi and Shams were talking. Shams was called to the back door. He went out, never to be seen again. It's rumored that Shams was murdered for some reason, but Rumi's love and his bereavement for the death of Shams found his expressions in an outpouring of lyric poems that really gave him his reputation. He went back to Damascus and he said, "Why should I seek? I'm the same as he. His essence speaks through me. I've been looking for myself." So there you have it. The journey always takes you back to the place that you started from. Here's who knows what Rumi looked like, but here's a statue of him in Persia. And
Well,
so
isn't that Shams? I think
it's, oh yeah, it's Shams. It's not Rumi, it's Shams, the mystic who he met with and was then murdered that same night. So we'll just go back to some more details on this encounter with Shams and Rumi. He was wearing a black suit from head to toe. He claimed to be a traveling merchant, and Rumi was reading next to a large stack of books, and Shams passed by, said, "What are you doing?" Rumi replied, "Something you cannot understand. This is knowledge that cannot be understood by the unlearned." So on hearing this, Shams threw the stack of books into a nearby pool of water. Rumi hastily rescued the books. To his surprise, they were all dry. Rumi asked Shams, "What's this?" Shams replied, "This is what you cannot understand. This is knowledge that cannot be understood by the learned." So after several years with Rumi, Shams left and settled elsewhere. As the years passed, Rumi attributed more and more of his court poetry to Shams as a sign of his love for his departed friend and master. And Shams became a guide to Allah, the creator. Love for mankind, and Shams was a son, uh, Shams meaning sun in Arabic, the shining of the light of the sun as a guide for the right path. And the source of Shams' teaching was the knowledge of the Talib, who was also called the father of Sufism. So there's a discourse here by Shams we're not going to run through. But now Rumi became a poet, complete change of career. He'd been composing Persian poems, Mawlana, and these have been collected. And Rumi found another companion who was a goldsmith. So after the goldsmith's death, Rumi's scribe and favorite student assumed the role of Rumi's companion. One day, the two of them were wandering through the vineyards outside Konya when Husam described to Rumi an idea he had. If you write a book like that of these others, it would become the companion of many troubadours. They would fill their hearts with your work and compose music to accompany it. And that is indeed what happened. Many troubadours loved Rumi's poetry, and they composed music to go with it. And that's spread his popularity immensely. So he took out a piece of paper and wrote the 18 lines of his Masnavi. Listen to the reed and the tale it tells, how it sings of separation. So you start to see who Rumi is. Hassan implored Rumi to write more, and Rumi spent the next 12 years of his life dictating 6 volumes to Hassan. And in 1273, he fell ill. He predicted his own death and composed the well-known Ghazi, which begins with the verse, "How dost thou know what sort of king I have within me as companion? Do not cast thy glance upon my golden face, for I have iron legs, tomb, shrine of Rumi, Konya." And so that's this looks like the sort of thing he wanted to have on his tombstone. And he did indeed die in 1273, and so forth. So let's see if we can. There's many things that he wrote, but here's examples of his teachings. He had a longing, a desire to attain this ideal life. And as you saw earlier, he's talking about the love of himself that's within him that the Sufis recognized. That was, if you could learn to love yourself, then that was everything, and then you could learn to love others. And so he wrote this following poem. I died to the mineral state and became a plant. I died to the vegetal state and reacted animally. I died to the animal state and became a man. Then what should I fear? I've never become less from dying. At the next charge forward, I will die to human nature, so that I may lift up my head and wings and soar among the angels. And I must also jump from the river of the state of the angel. Everything perishes except his face. Once again, I'll become sacrificed from the state of the angel. I'll become that which cannot come into the imagination, then I will become non-existent. Non-existence says to me in tones like an organ, truly to him is our return. So this 6 volumes of poetry weaves fables, scenes from everyday life, Quranic revelations, exegesis, metaphysics into a huge tapestry that Rumi is known for. They believe passionately in the use of music, poetry, and dance as a path for reaching God. For Rumi, music helped to focus your being on the divine, and to do this so intensely, the soul was both destroyed and resurrected. And it was from these ideas that the practice of whirling dervishes developed into a ritual form. His teachings became the base for the order of the Mevlevi, which his son Sultan Walad organized. Rumi encouraged Sama listening to music and turning or doing the sacred dance. And so they went into a rapture, a state of enlightenment in these whirling dances. It represents a mystical journey of spiritual ascent through mind and love to the perfect one. In this journey, the seeker symbolically turns towards the truth and grows through love, abandons the ego and finds the truth and arrives at the perfect. The seeker then returns from the spiritual journey with greater maturity to love and to be of service to the whole of creation without discrimination with regard to beliefs, races, classes, and nations. And so you see who Rumi was. He wrote quatrains, but he also wrote prose, and those are captured in many of his sermons and letters. The best known poetry is the spiritual couplets, but these are 6 volumes of Persian Sufi literature, and they're commonly called the Quran in Persian. So there you have it. He was regarded as the greatest mystical. The poem is regarded as the greatest mystical poem in world literature. Contains approximately 27,000 lines, each consisting of a couplet with an internal rhyme. And this genre of poetry may use a variety of different meters. And when Rumi composed his poems, the meter he used became the Masnavi meter par excellence. The first recorded use of this meter for Masnavi poem took place at Nizar in the forests of Girkud between 1131 to 1139, and it lightly set the stage for later poetry in his style by mystics such as Attar and Rumi. So it's not a sort of meter that you would commonly come across. He also wrote a number of other works. He's very prolific and so forth. And we don't want to miss his prose, but it's really his poetry that I think he'll be remembered for. He was a Muslim scholar, and so he took Islam very seriously, but the depth of his spiritual wisdom extended beyond narrow understanding sectarian concerns. One quatrain that he wrote is, "On the seeker's path, the wise and sacred are one. In the way of
Crazed,
the wise and crazed are one. In the way of love, kin and strangers are one. The one who they gave the wine of the beloved union. In his path, the Kaaba and the house of idols are one." And so he uses this yin and yang, these opposites, to make his point come through. He also wrote, "The light of Muhammad does not abandon a Zoroastrian or Jew in the world. May the shade of the good fortune shine upon everyone. He brings all of those who are led astray into the way out of the desert. But he also asserts the supremacy of Islam, saying the light of Muhammad has become 1,000 branches of knowledge, 1,000, so that both this world and the next have been seized from end to end. If Muhammad rips the well open from a single such branch,
Veil.
the veil open from a single such branch, thousands of monks and priests will tear the string of false belief from around their waists. Partly he has to write this because if he didn't, he'd have his head chopped off. So Rumi wrote, "I am the servant of the Quran as long as I have life. I am the dust on the path of Muhammad, the chosen one. If anyone quotes anything except this from my sayings, I am quit of him and outraged by these seeds. I sewed my two eyes shut from this world and learned from Muhammad." And so it goes. So I think we have a poem here. Just give me a second. I'm gonna pick up a poem that we have from Muhammad, from some Sufi, Rumi, not here. Is this it? No. Close this. Not here. Close this. We don't need this. Nope. Thought we had one for Rumi. We'll save that for next time. So with that, we're going to end our little session on Rumi. Hold on a second.